The business I'm about to show you in just the last year has generated over $100,000 for this business owner and her fiance. And after getting it up and running, it really only needs close to part-time hours to keep it running and acts as a passive income stream. Now, before I show you, I think we need to agree on the definition of a passive income stream, right? I've been in the side hustle gig space since 2015, most every single app and platform in different marketplaces. I've researched, I've been into entrepreneurship as well. We need to agree that passive income streams are really semi-passive. There's always going to be work and usually a lot of upfront work to get it started and going, but once it's launched, it can be more automated and more of that semi-passive income stream. But let's be real, semi-passive just doesn't quite hit on the title, does it? So if we can agree on that, let me show you how this business generates over 6 figures in a year. And I know you're skeptical. I'm skeptical too. We're gonna go over some numbers as well. So meet Esme and her fiance, and I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly here, based out of Los Angeles, California, and their business is renting a space on Peerspace. Now, I've experience with Peerspace. I've used it as a customer actually to film my mastering delivery course. So the way Peerspace works, it's similar to Airbnb. If you have an office space, film studio, a bar, even your home, loft, something like that, you can rent it out for the like filmmaking, video, music videos, a creative space, etc. So again, as an example, when I was in San Diego and I was filming my mastering delivery course, which is the best A to Z course to master food delivery platforms as a driver, I went to Peerspace. So let's get into actually what Esme and her fiance are doing here. And yes, go over some of the numbers to see if this is really making sense.
So this is how Peerspace made me $100,000 in my first year. So you want to find a space. Get a space in an industrial building, and that's just from my experience because there's no need for a modern building because you just really are doing this to rent it out. Have a bathroom in the place.
So we're renting out really a industrial building here.
Understand your niche. So if you want to do photo shoots, if you're targeting brands, if you're targeting underground rappers or low budget videos, know your niche.
Okay,
like
here's the upfront cost that I'm talking about. So look at this. They're painting, they're renovating. So again, we're going to have obviously the upfront cost. I'm going to show you some of the numbers that actually Esme went over in the comment section of some of these videos. But obviously an upfront cost to rent an industrial space. And then we can see here the painting, the staging, and renting it out, like she said, photo shoots, music videos.
You have to be multi-set if you don't have the budget for it. If you don't do multi-set, your building costs will be significantly lower and you can focus on more investment towards props and like actual great innovative sets. Once you set up your account, make sure you have add-ons. Make sure you have drinking fees, smoking fees.
Yes.
People are going to come in and want to drink and smoke for their shoots or video shoots.
All right, let's talk about that. So add-on fees, this reminds me of Toro, and I have videos on that. You can check our playlist if you'd like to see my experience, but renting my personal vehicle. So if your price point is X, then have option A, B, and C as add-ons. Hey, if you want a luxury of, like she said, having smoking, I guess, drinking in the facility, other props, if you can provide props, like, hey, we have a fog machine, you can use it for your shoot for an extra $20, then that's increasing your margin. I do like that. And that's kind of what I did for Toro. Okay, hold up. Look at this. Look at the earnings here. What are the earnings? $665 a day. And this was only a couple of months ago in August. 300, 500, 378. Okay, look at the days, the 16th, 17th, a couple days, the 21st, 23rd. So she's renting out this space almost every single day. What is that doing? It's cash flowing for you. And obviously you're gonna have to flip the space. So there's cleaning.
And if you don't have that stuff, you can rent it on ShareGrid and then technically rent it out for more, but that's besides the point. Or you can just buy equipment and then rent it out. But here's a look inside the profits that you can make. This is daily, weekly payouts. Make sure you have security cameras up on that. So if people don't want to pay the fees or don't feel like paying, you can just submit proof to Peerspace.
So have cameras in the space as well. When I filmed in that studio in San Diego, they had cameras on like all corners of like the ceiling. So, which makes sense. If I had and this is something I'd be interested in, comment down below if you're interested in this. But they had cameras all over, which makes sense, obviously for personal property, to make sure that they're not jamming a bunch of people in here. So I saw Esme commented to a response from someone like, well, what if they pay for one person and they're bringing in a bunch of people? And she said they have tiered pricing, which I love. And Esme is certainly welcome to the channel. I did reach out, so hopefully we see her and her fiance on for an interview. But she said there's tiered pricing where if they pay for, let's say, 2 or 3 people and a certain price point, and they didn't want to pay for the 4 to 8 or whatever it is that the next tier level is they had that security cam footage. So all they did was send that screen recording of that footage over to Peerspace to get the pay. I love that. And again, kind of an additional add-on. It's the same space, but you're getting more income because there's more people using the space.
And they will charge their card for you. They have 3 days to charge the card, and if you have proof, the guests can't fight that. Also, another bread and butter winner is tiers for people. Guest count will change to hourly. So pick your prices wisely for, guest count. Esme's
talking about that tiered pricing. Let me give you this tip. For anyone that can set their own pricing, for TaskRabbit, for Toro, for Peerspace, any of these apps where you're setting your own pricing, do not undervalue yourself. Because when I first rented my Passat, it was 2015 Passat on Toro, I undervalued the vehicle. I was renting it for like $60 some. So if you think you're going to rent your space for like 30 an hour, double it to 60 and see if it books. Because I doubled my Passat price on Toro, I think twice. The initial price went higher and I went higher and it still got booked. So don't waste money. Yes, you need to find the market equilibrium, but do not be afraid to price yourself what you're worth. You can see here, this is my studio downtown LA. So let's start answering some of your, I'm sure, skeptical questions, which you should be. I mean, if we're spending this kind of money here. So I was just reading through her responses to some comments, and there was a question about, well, this works just in LA. I wasn't in LA, but I was in San Diego, not too far away, and I was still in, obviously, the California market. So this is something I'd really be interested in doing here in Pittsburgh. And comment down below, actually, what city are you in and would this work? Because if I could invest, and Esme gave an example here of $10K to start, first and last month's rent on a commercial lease and not getting locked into a long-term lease. That's another thing that someone said. Well, if you're getting locked into a 3 to 5 month lease, and she said they're only signing for 12-month leases, which I really like. That's exactly what I would do. But again, would the marketplace support it? And she commented that these are doing really well in LA. Now, my thoughts on that is I do feel like this could work in most every single marketplace. If you're in a really tiny city, super rural, then no, I don't think there's a business need. And I also want to challenge you to say that I don't think this is, just for influencers to do a pretty photo shoot for Instagram. I don't. I would reach out to local small businesses, obviously the artists and creators. Actually, look at what Esme's doing here. Someone asked her, how are you sourcing clients? And this wasn't just kind of an inward funnel. This was outward as well. So she's reaching out to influencers, creators, music artists. And again, I would reach out to small businesses as well. I like the outreach. She's being active. She's not being passive, sitting by and hoping people find her listing on Peerspace. She's going after warm leads, you could call it, insofar as demographics that are fitting someone that might be able to use this space.
There's a 2-hour minimum, and then anything past that, there's overtime, which is double the hourly. A lot of people end up.
That was huge. So let's hear that part again.
Hour minimum, and then anything past that, there's overtime, which is double the hourly. A lot of people end up needing overtime.
I love that. So there's a 2-hour minimum, which is great because obviously there's got to be a flip. And she also addressed cleaning. So she mentioned they do a deep clean every month, which makes sense. Again, security cameras, if someone trashes a place, there's fees for that. So a deep cleaning every month, and then obviously flipping and simple cleaning in between clients. But then the premium of the overtime that she called it, which is again, another upcharge. So we have the initial cost, 2-hour minimum. So there's a lock in there. The upcharges for, fog machine, lights, other stuff like that as an upcharge. And then the overtime cost as well.
Now here's a little sneak peek of my profits and what bookings look like.
Okay, hold on. She said profits. This is not profits. This is gross revenue. So I like the gross revenue. Like imagine if you had to drive for DoorDash you're not going to make $400 a day. You're not. You'd have to drive basically the entire day. But these numbers you're not going to make on other side hustles. This is why I wanted to show you. And other than flipping this space, that's all you really need to do. And then processing guests. They have a door code. It's pretty much contactless check in and check out, which exactly how I would do it. Contactless as well. More hands off for you. Frees up your time.
Bookings come all the time, especially last minute bookings. If you have your account on instant or auto bookings, you're going to get more bookings. My studio is 24 hours and this is how much I make. So like guys, there's money to be made here.
Now, if your studio's 24 hours, I mean, that's the way to do it. 100%. If I can make money when I'm sleeping, the only problem is my waking hours are certainly are X to X, right? So if someone's booking until 2 a.m., but someone booked that morning for 5 a.m. or 6 a.m., how's that going to work as far as flipping that space? So there's some maneuverability there. And that's why, again, I say it's semi-passive. Someone's got to go in there and flip that space. So like we mentioned, this space is 3,000 square foot directly from Esme. This is what she told us. And it rents for approximately $3,000 a month. So she charges an hourly rate and mentioned just in general, you should have about $10,000 to start. Again, first, last month's rent, some equipment for reno, props, etc. So if you had a $10,000 startup cost, you'd need 100 hours at $100 just to break even. But remember, that's just break even on the initial principal of the $10,000 of the investment. We have the taxes, the fee, the Peerspace fees that we talked about, and just ongoing expenses. So for Esme's case here, because the entire premise here is they did $100,000. And I saw some comments, is it net revenue, $100,000, which is a lot like post-tax, net revenue versus gross revenue before taxes and expenses. Let's assume it's $100,000 in gross revenue. So $100,000 in gross revenue, just top line, immediately we're taking off 15% or $15,000 for the Peerspace fees. Now, Esme said her space rents for approximately $3,000. It sounds like it's a little bit less than $3,000. Let's just square it away at $3,000 a month. So then $3,000 times 12 months, $39,000 just in the commercial leasing space. So take 36 minus that 85. So now we're left with $49,000 a year. So $49,000 divided by 12 months, that would cash flow $4,083 after expenses. Okay, well, if it's going to take 100 hours at $100 to earn back your principal, obviously, you know, before the taxes and fees, it would take 1,000 hours at $100 to earn the $100,000 in your gross revenue. So if you need 1,000 hours at $100 to gross $100,000, let's assume, because each session is a minimum of 2 hours. Let's assume on average, an average session was 3.5 hours. So for an average of 3.5 hours, you would need 286 sessions booked at that 3.5 hour time slots to equal the $100,000. That's about right. That's most every day of the year, but we saw that Esme was booking her space with her and her fiance's space about every single day. And I would imagine, I'm curious, but I think their average might actually be a little bit higher than 3.5 hours per booking. So verdict, after Peerspace expenses, after rent, we're left with $49,000. That is before self-employment tax and any other taxes on that earned income. Now, obviously there's write-offs for props and stuff like that, but what are your thoughts on this? Number one, I think obviously she's in probably the best market to do this in. She's in Los Angeles. So she has almost an endless pool of locals and people who are visiting that are looking for a space like this. Do I think this can be replicated in large and medium-sized markets? I do. It's just obviously not going to be as saturated, but 100%. I mean, I booked the space when I was in San Diego, but I would have still needed, and actually I looked for spaces here in Pittsburgh as well. Now the price points, the $100 an hour, I think it's a touch high, not for LA, of course. I think that's a fine price point, but other markets, you might struggle to get bookings at $100, but certainly I think $80 is a good sweet spot. The rent for 3,000 square foot. So if you're doing this, you don't need 3,000 square feet. I mean, cut it in half, 1,500 square feet, cut the rent in half then, $1,500, but that was LA rent. So 1,500, you might be able to get 1,500 square feet for what? I don't know, $1,000. Again, comment down below. I don't have experience in commercial leasing, but if you can save money, obviously, on the monthly rental, then if you have a higher price point as well, it always comes down to the math, folks. That's increasing your margin. Do the research that we talked about, go over the numbers, and let's say if you're looking to invest 10, 15,000, 20,000, whatever it is that really the best use of your money? Or is real estate or something else, licensing, franchising, whatever it is? Because you have a lot of different options here. But we did also mention if you can do a month, well, not a monthly, a yearly lease here, then what is the percent return after everything versus those other ventures? Let me know if you want to see more of these reactions to building wealth, different entrepreneurial ventures, to give myself and you some ideas. Drop a like on this video. You can also click or tap the screen here for my newest video, as well as a video recommended for you. And I'll see you in the next one.